racing on Wednesday night, we preempt tonight for a special edition of In the Pits with StockCar Scott. And now, here's your host, StockCar Scott.
Howdy race fans, I am StockCar Scott, and this is my little show about racing I like to call In the Pits. And In the Pits is brought to you thanks to a generous sponsorship by Monte Carlo Express Delivery. Monte Carlo Express Delivery, serving the courier needs of the Seattle area for the last decade. Please like us on Facebook. Okay, breaking news, it's Tuesday, and I just got a haircut, so I'm not going to wear a hat tonight. Yes, I went to Great Clips, where I go, there you go, Great Clips, not Great Claps. Great Clips, where I go because they sponsor Casey Kane's car and occasionally Dale Jr.'s car. So anyway, and the other breaking news for today is Joe Gibbs Racing finally announced what everyone already knew was going to happen, that Carl Edwards will be driving for him next year in a, what everybody didn't know was it was going to be number 19. They, as far as I could tell, they didn't announce any sponsorship or anything like that, so that is yet to come. That usually happens when they get down to Charlotte. They like to announce things like that. Okay, back to the weekend, this past weekend racing, starting off on Friday. Knockout qualifying at Michigan, and the old man does it again. And not only does he do it again, he does it in record style. Jeff Gordon is the old man I'm talking about, and he put his number 24 Chevrolet on the pole at a record speed for well, I don't know if it was record for Michigan, but it was the 7th fastest NASCAR qualifying speed ever. And the other 6 spaces on that record are all one guy. Now, different tracks like Daytona back before they had restrictor plates, and Talladega and places like that.
Well, who would that be, Scott?
That would be Awesome Bill from Dawsonville back in the 80s.
Right.
Had all those other plus 200 mile an hour qualifying days.
Everything is better in the 80s.
But that new Chevy SS is pretty fast, and Jeff Gordon proved it by laying down a lap that was like 206 and a half and something miles an hour there, and he blistered it, folks. And good for him. 2 poles in a row. You know, let's see what he can do there. On the outside of Jeff Gordon there for the Michigan race would be the 22 of Mr. Joker Logano. And he's been doing real well himself qualifying this year. I don't think he's been outside the top 12 but a couple of times with this new knockout qualifying format. Okay, that brings us to Saturday. And Saturday was a very busy day of racing. Got up early so I could see a little bit of the qualifying for the Truck Series race that was going to be there at Michigan. It's a 200-mile, 100-lap race, and they qualified early there with the knockout qualifying, and Ryan Blaney was on the pole there in a Brad Keselowski truck, and my favorite driver, Bubba Darrell Wallace Jr., was starting the race there in 4th place. Now, when the race got started, Blaney led a little bit, but Darrell Wallace Jr., who everybody called Bubba, he led quite a few laps, and right behind him was his boss for quite a while, and his boss is Kyle the Toad Busch. And they you know, early in the race, first half of the race, they did real well, but they had fuel consumption problems there towards the middle of the race, and that caused Bubba to have a finish just outside the top 10 of 11th. And the Toad, I do believe he was 5th when things ended up. Now, another one of my favorite drivers, Austin Dillon, was there in the Truck Series this past weekend, but he was never really a factor. Also, the 2 Thor Motorsports trucks were very strong. Johnny Sauter was able to come along late in the race, and he held off his teammate, the other Thor Motorsports teammate, the number 88 of Matt Crafton, in his Menards Toyota. And because of some things that happened late in the race, Johnny Sauter was able to win, holding off his teammate. Hornaday, Ron Hornaday Jr., was the best finishing Chevy Silverado of the race, and he finished third. And then in fourth place is a kid from Montlake Terrace, just up the road here a piece. His name's Taylor Mawson. A lot of y'all know about him. And then, like I said, rounding out the top 5 was the Toad. Okay, let me give me a drink here. At least that's what my director says I need to do.
Folks, you're watching In the Pits with StockCar Scott.
Thank you. Okay, also this Saturday was, well, you can hear one of the things going on in the background here, but we'll get to that. Also Saturday was the nationwide race at Mid-Ohio Road Course, and Sam Hornish Jr., who used to be an IRL driver and is good at road course races, well, he was on the pole driving the number 54 Monster Mobile of the Toad there. I mean, it belongs to Joe Gibbs Racing, but it's Kyle Busch's car, and because Kyle Busch is busy at Michigan this past weekend, then they recruited Sam Hornish Jr. to fill the seat. Another fellow doing about the same thing with the kind of same background was Alex Tagliani, and he was driving the number 22 Penske Mustang, which is sponsored by Discount Tires, and that was, of course, usually driven by either Bad Brad Keselowski or Joker Logano. And he started second on the outside. Starting third was Brian Scott, no relation to StockCar Scott, and he was the first of the nationwide regulars in the starting order, with his teammate right there beside him, Ty Dillon, in the number 3 Camaro of his Pop Pop's RCR team. In fifth place was a Roush Mustang driven by a rookie by the name of Chris Buescher, and if you follow the ARCA series, you'll know him. That's where he came up through. And then Chase Elliott, the leader in points, started 9th, and just in front of him was the fella chasing him in points, Regan Smith. At the beginning of the race, things got off smoothly, but Hornish had problems, and he was out of the race fairly quickly. And Tagliani, the other kind of road course ringer for the day, he did finish in the top 5 with a 5th place finish, but they were the closest thing to road course ringers for that race. There were no Cup drivers, unless you count Trevor Bain, who actually is still a full-time nationwide driver who happened to also be driving in Michigan this weekend. Chris Buescher, the nationwide rookie in his first year, used some really good fuel strategy and a lot of rookie enthusiasm to win his first race. He was able to hold off Regan Smith there at the end of the race, and Brian Scott also, and Brian Scott did lead some laps during the race, which helps him in the point situation, and he finished third. And then also Chase Elliott finished 4th, and who finished 5th? Oh, well, I forget. But because everybody finished so closely, with the exception of Ty Dillon, who finished, I think, back in like 19th or something, the points, again, they don't tighten up so much as stay kind of the same for the nationwide drivers. Okay. Excuse me.
Thank you for watching In the Pits with StockCar Scott.
Just get talking so much. Anyway, then Saturday night, you can hear it over here, just to my left, yes, military left, is the K&N 150 West Pro Series, K&N Pro Series, that ran at Evergreen Speedway this past weekend, and it was a really good race, folks. If you weren't there, you missed probably the best race that you're going to see in this area for the summer. Well, up there in the top 5. The pole, well, that was won by number 16, Brandon McReynolds, who in his Napa Toyota was able to get a really good lap in. And it was kind of funny afterwards, after the race was over. I was talking to him in the pits. Just a little break there. Talking to him in the pits, and I walked up and said, you know, I'm from Alabama too. He's not really from Alabama. He's from North Carolina, because that's where they live now. But his father is Larry McReynolds, who works for Fox. And I told Brandon, I said, you know, of the people that live up here, I'm probably one of the few that doesn't need an interpreter in order to understand your dad. So we both had a little bit of a laugh on that one. But anyway, that was after the race. Before the race, I mean, he was a little bit busy, because he started the race on the front row with the fastest time. And veteran Greg Pursley was on the outside. He was second. And that didn't last long, though, because as they came around on the warm-up lap, passed on the flag stand, went into turn 1, and Greg gave it all his experience, because he's won at Evergreen before. Gave it all his experience and got into first place right there on the first turn. And he led just about the whole first half of the race. They had a halfway break at 75, and everybody went in, changed tires, did a little work on their cars and such. After they came out, Pursley, of course, led some of the laps, but from what I understand, he had some sort of battery problems or something that had him fall back during the beginning of the second half, and then eventually go back into the pits to figure out how they could get the car to finish. He didn't have a very good finish. A couple of the drivers that were there were local guys that their sponsors were able to get them into these big time rides here. One of them, the number 36 car, was sponsored by Grocery Outlet and put in their driver, Daniel Bud Moore. And you know, he's last year's track champion there of the late models for Evergreen Speedway. So that got him in. And then also the young fella who usually runs the number 65 late model Chevy there in the local series, he got a ride. I think it was number 09. And Tyler Tanner was also able to compete in Saturday night's K&N 150 race there. So it was great to have local guys. You could really hear the crowd really loving it, and of course their different cheering sections. Now, as the second half of the race unfolded, it looked like number 9, Dylan Lumpkin, who won the race last year, was able to just going to be able to get away from everybody once again. But McReynolds and David Mayhew in the number 17 Chevy, they were able to keep close to him. And then towards the end of the race, there was a pretty nasty crash in turn 1 and 2 that took out young Nicole Bayer in the number 33 Sundrop car. And the back end of the car just got all smashed up, and she was now not able to go anymore. Just wasn't really a good day for folks from Spokane, because before the race even started, another young Spokane driver, Braden Havens, he blew an engine, so he wasn't even able to make the race, which was unfortunate, because you know, I wanted to cheer for him. But those two had their bad luck. After the yellow for Nicole Bayer, then it took a little while to get everything cleaned up. Lumpkin got a good start, but there were Mayhew and Brandon McReynolds right behind him. But they sort of got away from the rest of the field and ran that way until pretty much the last lap. And then it was a real exciting last lap, folks. They were coming through turns 3 and 4, and as they got into 4, Mayhew got underneath of Lumpton and gave him a little bit of, maybe moved him up a little bit there, and got up underneath him right as they got underneath the flag stand. It was a great finish, folks, and you'll be able to see it in just a couple of weeks. August 22nd, early Friday morning. It'll probably come on at like something stupid like 6 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning on Fox Sports 1. But if you get a chance, see it, because the finish is well worth it, and you missed a really good race.
That's in a couple of days.
And then after that race,
Folks, you're watching In the Pits with StockCar Scott. Find us on Facebook and YouTube.
yes, YouTube. You ought to watch some of the stuff that that I posted on YouTube from the K&N 150 race. Got a lot of good footage from that, and also the late model 100 race that they also had that night after the K&N race. Got a bunch of good footage on it. Of course, my favorite late model driver from this area, Gary Lewis, was there, and he set best time. And yesterday, it's his birthday, so happy birthday, Gary. But he set fast time in his number 73 Chevrolet, and there was a 6-car invert, so he got put back on the outside of the third row. On the inside of the third row there was second best time, Mike Holden in the number 32, another one of my Facebook friends there. Hey, Mike.
Woohoo!
And he's quickly becoming one of my evergreen track favorites because he wins. He's fun to watch. So with the invert, that put the number 18 of John Bender on the pole, and then they lined up. But before they got the race going, they had a real nice little tribute to a fella by the name of Don Miller, and he just passed recently, but he was a very important part of the Northwest racing community. Not only was he a flagman regularly there at Evergreen, but he was also did flag work and racing official work throughout this area. So Don will definitely be missed, and everyone had a really fitting tribute for him before the 100-lap race. So, getting to the race though, they started out. Nema Lang was on the outside of the front row there beside Bender, and he was able to get out early, lead some laps. Bender, I think, led a few laps to begin with, but then Nema was able to wind out that crate motor of his like he's always done, and get around and lead a whole bunch of the first part of the race. Now Gary Lewis, my favorite, doesn't run a crate motor. He runs a full compression motor, so he had to carry a bunch of extra weight in his car, and that seemed to use his tires up fairly quickly during the race. He was able to chase Nema for quite a while, but you could tell he was falling back as the weight basis, him versus the crate motor, was really telling on his tires. Now, number 32, Mike Holden, also with the crate motor, was able to work his way up towards the front during the last half of the race, and at around lap 70 something, or there was about 3/4 of the race gone when he got around Nema there, going through the back stretch, and he got around and started to lead quite a bit, led the next couple of laps. But then, as they got into traffic, probably the worst wreck of the night happened, and it was really scary. The car that was about to be lapped by Mike was Daniel Moore in his number 16. And somehow or another, you know, one of those racing things, I don't know exactly what happened, but the outcome was Daniel Moore going backwards down the front stretch and slamming into the pit road wall. And it was very, very scary. He's got a very torn up race car. And from what I understand, you know, I watched when the net came down, he came out of the car, and that was probably the best part of the whole evening, was seeing him come out of the car after that. He did go to the hospital, have himself checked out, may have a little bit of concussion, a little whiplash, but I'm sure he's woke up here the next day going, my neck, my back, lick my, excuse me, this is family show, so we won't go quite there. But anyway, and one of the most uncomfortable things, I mean, even though Daniel was fine, you know, we knew quickly that he was okay. When I was filming, gathering video, I was standing within a couple of feet of his mom, and that was such a scary wreck, and it really scared her. And I'm glad that there were friends around for her, but it was kind of a hard thing to watch, and it's one of the big differences between going to a big time NASCAR race where everybody boos and you know, when they don't get the way and their favorite driver doesn't, you know, gets wrecked or something like that. You know, it's different. When you go to a local track, you're sitting around people's family and friends. So, you know, keep that in mind. Those other people around there, that's somebody that they know personally in that car. But anyway, back to the race. They got restarted on lap 80 after cleanup, and it was quite a cleanup. And within just a couple more laps, there was a big wreck in turn 3. Somehow or another, Kelly Mann got into the wall in turn 3. I don't know who put him there, but he came to a stop, and then Pete Harding, who had dropped back because of mechanical problems, comes around, and I don't know if it was because it was a dark section of the track or what, but he plowed right into the back end of the number 9 Chevrolet there. And, you know, I just have to wonder, maybe Pete needs to get a referral from Garrett Evans for his optometrist or something, because Garrett did drive a little bit better after he got his eyes checked. But after that caution, they got it cleaned up. Took a little while over there in turn 3, but and the front end of Harding's car was pretty much torn off. I mean, it looked like it tore up his car worse than it did Kelly's. But got everything cleaned up, got the rest of the race run, and Mike Holden was able to hold off Naima Lang, and Tyler Tanner was able to make a late push to get himself up to 3rd. One of my Facebook friends there, and also another one of my Facebook friends, Brandon Shiver, was able to finish 4th, and Donnie Wannett was 5th. But big congratulations go out to Mike Holden. Way to go, winner chicken dinner. And thank you very much for the post-race interview. That was a lot of fun, especially having your biggest fan there right there with you when you did the interview. Everybody check it out there. It is one of the big views on this week's additions to my YouTube channel. So check out the interview with Mike Holden. That gets us to Sunday. Sunday was the big race on TV, was the Michigan 400. And the old man did it again. Not only did he start from pole position, but Jeff Gordon won his 91st NASCAR Cup race. The boy is, the old man is now the wonder old man. He's having quite the resurgence, and a lot of people are thinking that he is the pick to maybe make it all the way through to Homestead and be the champion. But we'll just have to see, because Junior's running real well too. Harvick finished 2nd. Joker Logano finished 3rd. Junior, despite having to start 25th and getting into a wreck with the new Wonder Boy Kyle Larson on pit road, Junior was able to come back for a top 5 5th place finish. Of course, Danica was nice enough to wreck early and cause a really big one that caught up Matt Kenseth. So Matt Kenseth is now going to have a little bit of trouble catching up in the points. And earlier than that, the Toad walled it he just scraped his car all up next to the wall, and I think he tore it up enough to park it for the rest of at least a majority of the race. So that was the nice part of the day. Of course, Gordon, even though I didn't mind seeing him win, it's really nice. He's now first seed because he has 3 wins and he has the most points, and there are only 3 races to the chase, folks. That's Bristol, Atlanta, and Richmond.
Woohoo!
And
Home
2 of
sweet
those
home.
are going to be on regular ABC TV, Bristol and Richmond. So watch those. They're going to be great, folks. Let me give me a quick drink. Finish off this last little bit.
Once again, folks, you are watching In the Pits with StockCar Scott.
Thank you there, Nick. Johnny Carson couldn't do it alone, and neither can I.
Speaking of which, we should give a shout out real quick. Don Pardo passed away.
Yes, Don Pardo.
If there's any voice out there that I have to pay homage to, man, you got to pay homage to Don Pardo. He's like the godfather of voices.
The voice of NBC for a long time, and the voice of Saturday Night Live.
Yep.
He was the first person inducted into the Broadcasters Hall of Fame. Don Pardo.
God rest your soul, man. Rest in peace.
Also Sunday, the ARCA race was a good one. It was the Springfield Mile. They raced on dirt at the Illinois Fairgrounds, and you can only watch it online, or not watch it, but follow it. And so as the Cup race was winding down, I found the ARCA race, and it was pretty exciting for something that I was just reading along with on the computer, because the 2 points leaders, Grant Enfinger and Mason Mitchell, did a lot of swapping of dirt there at the front of the pack. And then this fellow that was substituting for John West Townsley in his Zaxby Toyota, a fellow by the name of, let me get it up here, Kevin Swindell, came through the pack and ended up winning the race. Now, the name Kevin Swindell might be familiar to a few people. He's won a couple of the Chili Bowls, which is a really big race that they have in, I think, November, December, inside with open wheel cars. And he's also won another ARCA race there in Chicago last year, I do believe it was. So Kevin Swindell is no stranger to the ARCA series, but he used his dirt experience to wheel that big old stock car up through there on the dirt and pass Mitchell and Enfinger to win the race, leaving them in second and third, which of course doesn't make the points change a whole lot. And then in fourth and fifth, also in the respective points places, were the 2 Kimmels, Frank Kimmel and his nephew Will Kimmel. Next week, we are actually going to have a chance to see an ARCA race. If you happen to have a cable channel called CBS Sports Network, it's on a 412 on my Comcast here in Seattle, but they are going to show the next ARCA race at the Madison Mile, and it should be a really good one. That's where the IRL race just this past Sunday there in Madison, Wisconsin at the Mile, and Australian Will Power won the race.
Well, of course he did.
Followed by his 2 teammates, Juan Pablo Montoya in second and Tony Kanaan in third. Another somber note, folks. Now, this one didn't get any news play. I happened to see it on Facebook, and it did sadden me that a young lady by the name of Amanda Gambocarto, excuse me, she is 21 years old, and she was racing a 3/4 midget in a green flag driving school racing event at the Wall Stadium Speedway in New Jersey. And during the event, she lost control, hit the wall, had traumatic head injury, and she's no longer with us. And unfortunately, unless you saw it on Facebook or you're hearing it from me right now, you probably didn't hear about it because it wasn't caused by Tony Stewart. There wasn't a big name involved with it at all. So it doesn't matter if it's a big name or not, folks. Every racing death is just hard to take. It's a cruel, cruel sport that we like, but it's what we it's a racing lifestyle. Okay, this next weekend starts tomorrow. This weekend starts on Wednesday with the truck race at Bristol. And don't just go ahead and hand it to the Toad. I know he's won a lot of times, won the truck race there, and he'll be there tomorrow night. But he's got to beat Bubba, and he's got to beat Ryan, and he's got to beat Ron Hornaday. And there's a lot of other people that are going to be there too, so just don't give the race to the Toad. Okay, everything else that's important is having at Bristol this weekend. Friday, the Nationwide Series race is always about 4 o'clock or 4 or 5 o'clock out here on Friday afternoon, so I'll be getting home as quickly as I can. And then Saturday is the Cup race on ABC about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It's Bristol, baby. It's fun, door-to-door, half-mile stock car racing. It's going to be great. And because of it, sorry, I don't think I'm going to make any of the local racing this weekend. I think they're having wing sprint cars down at South Sound. Evergreen is having late models and street stocks, but it's Bristol, folks, and I've got to see every lap. And then Sunday, there'll be 2 important races. One will be, like I said, the ARCA race at the Madison Mile, and then early Sunday morning will be the F1. They're coming back from vacation, and they're going to be racing at Belgium. So come on, Lewis Hamilton. A couple other things before we go. One is, whenever I go to a race, big race, small race, a lot of the drivers give out what they like to call hero cards. And I just want to let y'all folks know that I appreciate them. They're great little things to have. Let me get me a drink.
Folks, you can catch StockCar Scott on YouTube at StockCar Scott. Search. And on Facebook, StockCar Scott.
But as you see, just this year, I've gotten quite the collection. Here's Jessica Dana. And even not big drivers, even mini stock drivers will have a hero card, like Kevin the Warrior Conway, man. And from down at South Sound, we got the Sunkiss number 2 of Tommy Eyestone. So everybody likes to give out the hero cards. Here's one of my favorites from my driver out in Yakima. He's also used to be on the West Coast Street Stocks. That's, oh dadgummit, that is Buck Knoll Jr. And I got just a whole Bud, glad you're doing better. Bud Moore gave me this one just this past weekend.
More Bud.
And last weekend when I went to see the big Miller 200, got this one from Parker Stevens.
Who cannot lose.
Thank you. And this weekend from the big boys, got the big cards from Giles Thornton, Dylan Lumpka, who won last year. Big Brandon McReynolds, whose dad is from Alabama like me, and veteran Greg Pursley. So I like to thank all the drivers. It's really a nice thing that they do for fans, and we really appreciate it.
Woohoo!
One more thing. I mentioned that it was Gary Lewis's birthday yesterday. It's also my oldest brother's birthday yesterday. And it was a little bit weird because this is the first time in a long time that I haven't wished him a happy birthday, either on Facebook or on the phone or something like that. And let me go ahead and kill this. But It's been a while since we've talked, and hopefully he'll see this on YouTube, but who knows. But I'd like to say happy birthday to my oldest brother Richard, even though we're on the outs right now and having a little bit of tiff going on. Still, he's my brother, and he may be Richard to everybody else, but to me, he's always a dick. So happy birthday, brother. Next week, we'll be talking about Bristol, folks, and getting ready for the more for the chase. But until then, I really appreciate everybody tuning in to In the Pits. Until then, see ya.
Folks, be sure to join us on Facebook and YouTube. Once again, this has been a Stock Car Scott production. We'd like to thank Monte Carlo Express Delivery for their endless contribution. We'll see you next time, race fans.